All right, everyone. So, welcome to the new series the department has put together, which is meant to make you engage with architecture a bit differently, where you're not scrambling all the time for information, but each of us gets to give you a little taster of what we went through, or the rabbit hole we took. And I say that because I really hope that when we give you this stuff, you don't go around and say, okay, so this is the end all be all, this is the end all be all, or how to create a concept. This is how it is to use AutoCAD or SketchUp or whatever software we're going to give you. No, it's a gateway for you to start exploring and to start learning and to start treading your own path and to become your own trader. That's the whole gist of this. Because I don't want this to become something where you think, I'll just wait till I get the information and I'm going to be good. No, the information is just a peer giving you their side of the story. Okay? That's number one. Now, number two. Today I'm going to start with a small little video. You know me. I always like to start with something a bit entertaining. I don't agree with everything this architect says. However, I do think it's very important to show for three reasons, and mark my words very well. Number one, the man respects tradition very well. He's all about tradition first. So much so that King Charles, before he was king, hired him or commissioned him to build one of the most prestigious buildings in one of the most prestigious universities in the UK. And he brought back methods of construction that were not in the UK, and have been extinct from the UK in the past 400 years almost. He brought them back to life. So that's one thing. The second thing is, he's very well read and he understands what's going on in the world to this day. And the third reason, his designs transcend space and time. And anyone who's been to any of his projects always says this. And he really respects the location he's building in. It's not about me. He's not the star architect. I have a signature building. It will be the same everywhere I go. It's just slightly different scale, slightly different height. No. I have principles and values, and I will respect whatever culture I go to help bring out those principles in there. And that's why I think it's really good to start with him. So I'll start with that. Stop talking now. Start with that, and then we can move on to the actual workshop. And by the way, don't say, where's the design part? Listen to it, take your time. Because he's telling a story. Today, I'm going to walk you through concept design, but also how to tell a story. Listen to how he's telling the story.
A culture, if it accepts everything, it loses its identity. If it rejects everything, it becomes despotic and it becomes a tyrant. Students today talk to us about identity, because architecture and the city has a very strong symbiosis with the identity of the person. In fact, the crafts before were always related to the greater identity, not to the egotistical, narcissistic selfie of the artist. You'd say, oh, this carpet comes from Kazan. This style comes from Izmir. This brocade comes from Bukhara. This pattern is called the Egyptian. The other pattern is called the Halabi, which is from Aleppo. Craftsmanship is not just doing something. A craft is a way of supporting your identity. The greater identity is the collective one. And of course, the greatest level of identity is, of course, to recognize your creator. This is, gives you the most powerful identity. At the time, 69, we went to the moon. So everybody was hyped about technology. We're going to live in capsules, plastic capsules. This is the ideas we had, We're not going to walk, we're going to get into cars that fly in the city. The problem with the futurists, they build it according to their dreams. When they say you have to be futuristic, they're not asking you to look at the future. Look at my dream of what the future is. That's what it really means. I wanted to popularize Hassan Fathy among the elite in Egypt. And I got the opportunity when I was asked by a relative of mine to build a villa at the beach of Agami, which is on the outskirts of Alexandria. The big surprise came when I won the Aga Khan Award, the first Aga Khan Award in 1980. And they put my house in the front cover. And they said, that's the sort of icon of what the award wants to show. And then when I got the award, I said I will not accept it unless I share it with the mason, because he taught me how to build in domes and vaults. Alauddin Mustafa, who's we had on the front cover of Domus magazine, he had worked with Hassan Fathy in Gurna. He lost his eye accident. Wooden thing went in his eye while he's building Gurna. And he stayed 3 weeks in hospital, and the government deducted his salary for the 3 weeks. So I decided to sort of share the award with him, and he was getting old, and then he would have a pension, to be his capital for old age. Yeah, this is Agami, there you are. You have the courtyard. You have the open staircase, which was a lot in traditional houses. You have a fireplace in the courtyard, a nice cozy sitting area with a fireplace when it's cold at night. You have here Juliet's window, and here you have the seat of Romeo. So you can make a theater here. I realized that one of the most important things in architecture is to learn how to love a building. It's like you love a mountainside, you love a valley, a river. Buildings, you have to love them. And my client, he was a businessman, he'd come on the weekend to see his family spending the summer there. So when we finished the house, it cost him $25,000, it got him $200,000. I told him, sell it and we'll make other houses. He said, no, I won't sell. I said, why? I know you're a businessman. You'd sell anything if you can make a penny extra out of what you bought it from. And he said, it's the first time I fell in love with something. All my life was money, money, money. The first time I fell in love with something. He said, from the day you built that house, my wife, my children never left the house. We're all there, and all their friends come and sit in the courtyard with the lodging. The crucial element is that the traditional house was always established around a courtyard. In Japan, you have the most important part of the house is the courtyard. In all the traditional architecture, even in Oxford, you have the universities were built around courtyards. You have the courtyard of festivity, you have Lady of the Court, you have the Court of Justice, everything around the court, because the court was the open living room. And when they explain about the courtyard in the books on Islamic architecture and, regional architecture, they say, oh, the courtyard is very good because climate-wise, the cold air of the desert drops in and stays there. It has the privacy for the women, and it's all the thinking, modern thinking of functional. They don't speak of the courtyard on the spiritual side, the metaphysical side. I always say that a house without a courtyard is like a man without a soul. The courtyard is the soul of the house. Not only this, it is the protagonist, because the rooms are built around the court. So what is the court? It's the open garden. And what is the garden? It's the God-created world. It is nature. What is a building? It is a man-fashioned world. One is fashioned by man, the other is created by God. So the predominance of the house is having God's creation in the center. So every culture tries to interpret its image of the macrocosm into a microcosm in their house. And this what gives meaning to a space. So the whole intelligence of the human being is the interaction with his environment. And in fact, a culture is really the interaction of man's intelligence with his environment. That is culture. And the environment is two. There is the physical environment and there is the spiritual environment. When you study symbolism, it's very different from science. When you lose the symbolic language and you become like today, you don't see beyond the words. You don't imitate the creation of the creator by mimicking it. No, by using its principles. So this is the transformation of nature in art. The nature of the palm tree is transformed in art by following its principle of shading. True knowledge is when you are involved with metaphysics. It's not this technology. Our universities don't teach us except practical subjects. Technology took away all the subjects that do not pay money, but make you wiser. When you give meaning to a small plot of land, you give it meaning more than its physical aspect and create a metaphysical symbol of its existence, then it expands not to fill your physical space, but to fill also your heart. It fills you, sort of enlarges your pneuma, your breast. In a way, you breathe better when you have always a meaning to some physical thing, because then it goes beyond the material expression.
All right. May I start? Thank you.
Never create a design without a story, and never tell a story without creating a design. if you're building, or your concept, or whatever you're building, and let's just talk about this project for a second. I want you to always go back to this project because the whole idea is for us to have an implication on what you're working on now. If you cannot tell a clear story that makes us understand why you chose the materials, chose the building, the form, the points, the planes, whatever, of whatever you're building, why you did that, if you don't have a clear story, we won't listen. People don't listen to instructions, people don't listen to explanations, they listen to stories. They listen to stories. Products are sold through a story, narratives are sold through a story, even religions are sold through a story. Story is everything. And it is the heart of architecture. You need to learn how to present a story. And we're going to come to that in the end. You saw his story, we'll talk about stories in the end, and in between is the concept. Okay? We think in physical, perceptual, and conceptual forms. I promise this is the most text you're going to see throughout the whole presentation. But when we think physical, solids and voids, interior, exterior. Perceptual is how we perceive things. Smell, touch, the light, senses, taste, smell. How much carbon is there in the room? So can we breathe easy? Can we not breathe easy? How cold? How hot is it? And then we have conceptual. Conceptual is something you cannot explain. It's you walk in and you say, you know what, this space feels light. Or this space feels heavy. Or this space feels constrictive. How can you measure it? You can't measure that in lux. You can't measure that in decibels. It's something that our minds translate into a language that meters and readings and devices cannot measure. By the way, most of these are based on the book that I already recommended, and we have already recommended last term, which is Francis James's Space Form and I think Space Form and Objects in Architecture. Space, form, function, and techniques. Pretty straightforward, right? You have a space you're in, you have a form, how it looks like, you have function, what it does, you have techniques, technicalities. However, I could never really memorize this throughout my whole career in architecture. I could never really memorize this because I felt it was too dry. And I think there's a better way to actually remember it and to practice it as well. You need to think of space as your soul. When you're in a space and how you experience it, that's really the soul of something. You've become the thing that brings that fourth dimension into life. And that's how you feel. That's your soul talking. Form is the body. Form is what, when you step out of the space and you look at it, oh, this is what it looks like. You cannot describe the form of something if you're in the space. And you cannot experience the space if you're looking at the form. Does that make sense? Those are two very different things. However, the function is life. It's our daily interaction with things. It's the form and the soul coming together. It's your body and your soul coming together. It's the form and the space coming together. It's when you move in the space, you say, it makes sense or it doesn't. Because you know, some things, they look very beautiful, but you walk into them, they're not functional, they don't work right. And some things, they work very well. One of the reasons why McDonald's became such a legend in the fast food industry was not that it made excellent burgers. It had one of the most streamlined kitchen plans there ever was. And read the history. And it's a blueprint, and they've patented it, as far as I know. It works great, but if you work there for a month, you'll be depressed because there's no light, there's no proper ventilation. People are not treated like people in there. They're not even treated like animals. Animals are treated better than that. And insects are treated better than that, if you've ever worked in a McDonald's. And I've seen the McDonald's on the inside. And the last part is techniques. Techniques is the world, how the world works. Understanding how steel works, how wood works, how when you put them together, how they work, how concrete acts, how stone acts, how masonry acts. That's the world around you. It cannot be the basic, it cannot be the basis of how you design something. That is usually, a lot of times, especially modern architects, when they want to show off, that's how they design a space. Frank Gehry's Bilbao Museum in Spain, I know it's a big icon. But if you listen to how much he's so proud that he used such expensive titanium on the cladding that overheats the building, that kicked all the birds out, they don't go there anymore, they don't migrate there anymore. He understands the world maybe, but not the soul. So we're going to talk about a few things in concept design. And the first is get to the point. Where you put your points is everything. Where is your entry? Where is your exit? Where is the rest point? Where is the introduction? So if you're on site and you understand these points very well, this is the first step towards you being able to translate all of this into something meaningful. If we put the same point, so center, and we start to draw different lines around it, the effects are very different. Are you subdividing an area, or are you creating hierarchy? Same point shifted. Are you creating imbalance in the space, or are you creating, I won't say hierarchy, but I'll just say clear division of labor? Or are you trying to create a centric point, and from it, everything has to follow? It's not really concentric, but this is the center of everything, and everything will follow it regardless of where it is in time and space. And that translates more and more into how you design. Do you want a point that stems out, or things that stem into a point? Do you want to create several points and connect them through a spine? Or do you want them to go round and round and round in circles? So I'm going to give you half a minute. You have 30 seconds on your sketchbooks to draw a few points. If you don't have it, you can go get it. Draw a few points of your puzzle. Okay, I'll make it a minute. Let's make it snappy. Let's move, 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 move. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. I want you to draw a few points. These are not final. Where you think these points should be for your design. Can be on the site, can be specific in the plot that you chose, but draw a few points.
Is this for the project?
Yes. You don't have to connect the points, don't have to know exactly what you're doing, just put them down. Start with something, and start now. Points, not lines. Points. You can have a few lines, but predominantly points. All right. Hidden in plain sight. The next stage from a point is a plane. We look at nature and everything is either submerged, it's either flat, or it's slightly protruding, or it's slightly submerged, or it's very protruding with a high height, or very submerged as well. And we look and we see this every day. We have plains, we have small hills, we have canyons, and we have trees. And you can't be the architect that always wants to be a tree. Imagine a world with just trees. There are no mountains and no canyons and no valleys and no, throughs and up. You can't. The world is not like that. People who love to design buildings that show off all the time are like people who want to be trees only. It doesn't work like that. You need to create
Like he said, the microcosm through the macrocosm you see. So some planes, when you draw them, this over here, and the boundaries are just columns, it tells you here's your space that you're living in or you're residing in. However, you're free to go wherever you want, north, south, east, west. Other planes, you come to them, and they are here. There's no way front, there's only back. And by the way, if you read books on sacred architecture, be it churches, mosques, synagogues, whatever, they usually, and some of them actually have very strong jurisprudence advice on this, you're never allowed to make the main wall that you face to pray to made out of glass. It has to be a solid. You cannot see past, you have to know that this is your limitation with the world. It's actually a spiritual thing. And so they really dislike building facades in prayer spaces that are made of glass. And if you do walk into a few prayer rooms here and there, or churches, or whatever, very rarely will you find a place where they stepped out of this norm and they use the glass plane, because there's something behind how you feel in the space. Yeah? Two walls can shift your direction by diagonally. Two same walls, but parallel, can tell you where to go, where to move. You don't have that same feeling when you walk into studio many times, because we don't have set walls, they're all broken with these partitions. So you don't feel like, oh, I have to go towards the end of the corridor. You actually feel like I can escape and I can walk through. If we did have two long walls, like you do in the corridor out there, for example, you would feel like, oh no, I have to walk down this corridor. You don't, because they're not well defined as they would usually, and that's the whole point of studio. It's supposed to be an open environment. U-shape, it almost kicks you out. It almost kicks you out. It's not that it tells you this is the end and stop. It kicks you out. Many cemeteries, when they have enough real estate to build a full cemetery, they usually do it in a U-shape. Look at the Vietnam Memorial Wall, it's in a U-shape. Because it tells you, come visit, but leave. You need to go back to your life. It's not your time yet. You still have some time. When you rest, then you can come back. It's a philosophy, how you use walls. And then in the end, you can have four walls, and they confine you to a space. You feel, I'm here, I'm frozen in time, this is where I am, I'm not moving anywhere, which is usually the home or where we usually live or reside. I just put them together so you can have a look. Just in case I put them online, then you can see it for yourself, all together. Also, the height of a plane makes a big difference. Is it private? Is it semi-private? Is it public? Is it for you to look over, or is it for you to find guidance, or is it for you to know that this is a barrier between you and the next person, or you and this area? The height of walls play a huge effect on you. And I would recommend the next time, if you like to go on a hike, Peak District or something, they have beautiful stone walls, right? We spoke of it a bit in our module, but they have very different heights. The next time you're walking next to one that's at neck height, or slightly shorter, or slightly taller, can you just take notes, what you feel when you're walking next to it and when you're looking at it? What do you feel? Do you want to be people? When it's low enough, do you feel like I don't need to? I feel like I'm one with the other side, this is just like a barrier for protection, or because there are buffaloes on the other side, or big cows or whatever. This is a very important topic. You need to do a lot of research on it because it will help you in the future. But when you can have the same cube, if it's a dark color, very different if it's a light color. We perceive objects that are colored in black as much heavier than objects colored in white. So just ask random AI a random question. If I go and buy the new iPhone in the color black or color navy blue, or I buy it in silver, which will feel lighter in my hand? It will tell you the silver one. We perceive dark objects as heavier. They say when you have a small space, don't use furniture that covers to the ground. Use furniture that has voids, because it makes the space feel bigger. All of these things, and textures that are coarse make you feel like the space is smaller than textures that are very smooth. Touch. all of this has an effect on your design. Because some of you come to us, I'm going to use this. And I ask why, and I'm waiting to hear this language. You have to develop this language because some materials, metals especially, they're cold. If you're going to make them that they're accessible to touch, metals are cold. That's why in handrails we don't like to use, not now, 60, 70 years ago, they actually cared about the human being. They would never put metal on a handrail. They would put wood. Because metal is too cold to touch, and they used to go up the stairs a lot. They wouldn't use elevators like we do. So metal is not a nice material to interact with unless you have a purpose behind it. And you can have metal on one end, and then the bottom is a different material. That's very normal. Now, sorry. When you have, again, a main elevation or a main entry point, where you put it makes a difference. If you have a space, you put it towards the end, you're inviting someone, but at the same time, because it's so dominant, we always like buffer zones. We like appetizers before the main dish. We like a nap before we go to bed. We like to doze off before we go to bed. We like to stretch before we exercise. We always have a smaller version before the bigger version. So when you put it far away, you give space for a buffer. If you put it right in your face, you've made it a gateway. It's become something very dominant, like a gatekeeper. You don't have much time to interact before you go in. That's a call you make. Do you want it to be imposing? Do you want it to be light? Do you want it to be inviting? Do you want it to be dominant? It's all about how you want the person to perceive the space, but it has to fall into the story or narrative you are creating. Again, I'll leave you with half a minute to a minute. I need you to start drawing something else. And you can think in section or elevation as well. It doesn't just have to be in plan. You switch to section and elevation. Okay. I'm not giving you too much time so you can keep the engines running. So when this ends, which is going to end very soon, you can go back and actually put pen to paper and get going. Okay? In any way, shape, and form. There's a problem with taking Platonic shapes. Platonic shapes are the 5 major shapes by Plato, or not discovered by, documented by. They were used long before him. He was the first one, at least in modern history, or the history that we know, to document. The problem with using them as they are is because they're such heavy and such primary shapes to our existence, when you put them into a building as they are too heavy to see in a building. And a very good example of that is the pyramids in Giza. If you've ever been, if you've ever seen them, it's a very spiritual, but it's also a very heavy experience on the body. To see a shape of that size, that's also Platonic. It's too hard. So they might look nice in some instances, and there have been a lot of conceptual projects around them of what would happen if we use this shape, or what would happen if we use that shape. But that's not really how we go about it. And so the better way to think of it is you need to bring it down to a scale and size that a human being can deal with and can shape. We're very limited creatures. We're very limited creatures. We're able to go to space, but we're not able to live in space. You know, the Chinese spaceship that just had a small little piece of space debris smaller than a grain of sand, apparently, but it was going so quick, it hit one of the windows, it cracked, and now they're stuck in space. They've been stuck for the past 6 months, and they're waiting for the Chinese to send another spaceship to save them. Well, if we like it, if we're so good, why don't we just stay up there? We can. We don't like to. We're very limited creatures in what we can build, what we can do. Even if we can, we always like to have a comfort zone we don't like to pass. So you need to think of shapes as, here's my platonic shape, or the shape I want to follow. How can I reduce that to the size that would help with this project, with this generation, future generations? What color is needed and why? Everything has a why. I feel like it. Okay, you feel like it. Why do you feel like it? If you keep on asking the 5 whys, write it down. 5 whys. Always ask the 5 whys in anything. I don't like this person. Why? Because this. Why? Because this. Why? Usually by the 5th why, you can increase them, but you need to have a minimum of 5 whys. You will know why you're doing what you're doing. And then texture. Steel, stone, granite, limestone, sandstone. Again, why? I know you might look at this and say, duh, we do this already. I know. But the whole point is not to look and say, I know this. It's to actually put it into words and then see it as a tool. I know that all the time when you're sketching and you're drawing, you're either doing dimension transformation, so you're taking the same dimension of the building, you're either making it longer or shorter or bigger or smaller in scale. I know that. Or you're either subtracting from it, right? Making a cube into a pyramid, or a pyramid into whatever you're going to make it into by subtracting, or you're doing additive. You're adding pieces here and there, and then you're coming up with this shape. I understand that. But until you understand, and you write it down, and you see it in words, it will not be in the back of your mind. It will not be in that linguistic part of your mind that there are 3 tools to making shapes. You will not understand that. So you go about it haphazardly. When you understand that these are the 3 methods, ask yourself when you're designing, why am I adding a piece to this building? Why am I appending it? Isn't it good on its own? It just needs to be a bit longer, a bit shorter, a bit taller. Why am I appending? Why am I subtracting? Shouldn't I just add something and it'll be much better? Or should I keep it as it is? Or else you just keep on for the sake of it, subtracting, adding, and then it doesn't really lead to anything. And we see this all the time around us. Any project you look at, if you had like abstract, AR glasses, you put them on, anything it's either you're adding, so this here you could say easily they subtracted, and you could also say they easily added from this side a piece of a cylinder. They subtracted and they added. Classical building, how many additions are there and how many subtractions? You took a cylinder, split it in half, moved them to each side. You have half the cylinder this side, half the cylinder that side. It's all a matter of subtracting and adding. You need to learn how to look at that and see it, and then bring that into your project as you're drawing. See it for the shapes. Don't rush to draw the shape. Try to draw the principal shapes. Bring them together and cut and paste, and then dotted dashed lines, and slowly let it form like a baby in its mother's womb. Slowly grows. But, oh, here we go. Here's how it looks like. Bang. No. Slowly. Slowly. Give it time. And the things that come out are beautiful when you start to experiment. Am I creating tension, putting 2 things in front of one another, and you don't know which one to go to? Or am I creating edge-to-edge contact, things that barely touch? They barely touch, but they create a lot of strength. Or am I sliding things, using planes to connect things to one another? Yeah? It's like 2 people rubbing shoulders. Or am I bringing 2 blocks into one another? Vertically or horizontally, or vertically and horizontally. diagonally or in the x and y axis. This is just a little example of how you can take something very simple as a circle, and you can make so many things out of a circle. You can make a whole circle. You can make circles in a circle. You can subtract from sides, and you can create a space that's inviting, but it's also constricting, and inside it kind of tells you where to go. It's guiding in a certain way. You can bring it together, create like a Venn diagram. And within the Venn diagram, you have a central space that people are using maybe. You can take it and you can divide it, and from that division you can create beautiful spaces, or you can create pathways. Maybe this is more of a landscape thing where you have spaces to use, and the outside is more flowing. It's all about playing with the shape, subtractive, additive, etc. And I won't go too much into this. You can look at it in the book. However, where again you put the main element in your space goes a long way. Is it neutral? Is it stable? Is it unstable? Is it in equilibrium? You see, it's the same dot. But when you put the dot or point, you put it at the bottom, you feel it's stable, because we think in gravity. We think in how we live and experience space. We think in gravity. When you see a point at the bottom of a shape, you feel it's on the ground like a ball. It falls on the ground, so you feel stable. When you look at it up, you feel like it's the sky. Everything is in balance. We don't know how it's working. We don't know how it's up there with no columns, but it's working. When you look at it on the side, it's like, no, wait a second, there's something wrong. That does the same thing when you walk into space. By the way, nobody's gonna fly with a chopper and look at your plan and say, I see. They put this there, then there's no stability, there's equilibrium. No, you feel that. Because you walk in, they say, the first thing you walk into a hospital and you see the reception, it gives you stability. It's the first thing, I get it. It's right in my face. I don't have to look for the reception desk. And sometimes you get mixed up and it's right there. But you don't understand. Is it the lobby? Is it the bathroom? Is it the fountain? Is it the reception? Is it A&E? Is it the police guy? Is it the security guy? I don't know where to go. Stability. And then you walk in, and then all hell breaks loose. Why? Because there's no clear structure. Where to go for this, where to go for that. So you feel like everything is haphazard. We feel it on a ground level. And that's what an architect does. They try to understand how the human perceives things. Fill out the form. Again, half a minute. Start playing with your forms. These are not end-all be-alls. These are for you to start putting pen to paper. Okay. Be in it. Body and soul. In the book, this talks more about circulation. But I really don't know how you can look at these diagrams and think about anything other than body and soul. There's some ways you can manage a building or a structure to make it focus on the inside. So it's almost like you're a magnet, you're bringing things inside. There are some ways you can make a structure sequential. So you move in, you move to the next thing, you move to the next thing, you move to the next thing. Temples usually are like this. They take you from the start to the end. The goal is to reach the end, and the more you reach the end, the ground gets higher and the ceiling gets lower, showing that you're entering a more majestic presence, and the limitations that would be acceptable of your mistakes are the limits of accepting your mistakes are getting lower. But it's sequential. You go in lines, or sequences. And then there's radial. It's the same point, but it doesn't move in, it moves out. And sometimes it's just clustered all over the place. Sometimes hot, sometimes cold, sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes closed, sometimes open. Just all over the place. You don't know exactly what you're entering. And most deconstructive architecture is based on this idea. And the reason why it's so successful, by the way, one of the philosophical reasons why it's so successful in our day and age, deconstructive architecture, because it reflects really the states that we're usually in. We're not able to experience a stable state for a long time now because of a lot of things. Social structures, economic structures, social media, internet, exposure to images, a lot of things. So we're always dispersed. And so deconstructive architecture really does that very well. It reflects that very well in the building. Or grid format, where you're very organized. The reason why I called this body and soul before I move to the end, the last section, before the story part, is because if you read the canons of civilizations, if you read something like, St. Thomas Aquinas on his commentary on how one feels in space and in themselves, he said something very, very cute. I call it cute because I feel it a lot, many times. That sometimes a person will have all the freedom in the world, but they feel like they don't want to move anywhere. And they have money, they can travel anywhere, they have it all. But they feel like, I just want to be here. I don't need to be anywhere, I need to be here, I need to focus on me because I want to understand what's inside me. And they say, they comment, they call it the depression of the world, where they're not sad or anything, nothing afflicted them. They just don't want to be, they want to be inside themselves. And some people, they want to move from one thing to the other. You know, when you're young and you want to grow up very quickly. I promise you, you grow up. Don't. I wish I can go back and be 10 years old. That was the best time of my life. I had the best memories when I was 10, and I wish I could be 10 again. It's that feeling where you want to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 so quickly. And sometimes you feel you're just lost everywhere. You don't know what you want. The spaces you create can ground people in those feelings, or it can make them experience something they haven't experienced before. So you need to decide, what journey are you giving a person? And what feeling are you validating through the spaces you've created, the sequence you've created? And that's why I call it body and soul. Because I don't just see it as, oh, okay, it's linear, oh, we have spaces here, oh, we went from A to B to C. It's not like that. It's you went from A to B to C. What did that do to your heart, to your mind, how you think, how you act? All of these things put together. And the last, square the circle. Please be very diligent with how you put forms together. Some forms are very regimental, like a square. It has order, 4 corners, it has order, it's very precise, it's like military. And some forms are like a circle, it's free, it's a free spirit. You know, a hippie. When a hippie speaks to a sergeant, there has to be some ground rules. So the sergeant doesn't step on the toes of the hippie, and the hippie doesn't make the sergeant feel disrespected. There has to be rules. So when you bring a circle with a square, please study how it was made. In geometry, you know, once my teacher, by the way, that man that you saw, I searched the whole world to reach him. And thank God I was able to reach him through an acquaintance I don't even know. That's how small the world is today. And he asked me a very simple question. He told me, he was not embarrassing me, he was just trying to show me the limitations of education today. Very long time ago he said this to me. He told me, I want you to draw a triangle from a circle. I want you to draw a triangle from a circle. And I couldn't. He said, you see, that's the problem of the world today. They tell you go out and draw what you wish without understanding the principles of the basics of the language of the universe we live in, the Platonic shapes. And I cannot teach you that. It's not in your curriculum, and we don't have the time to go through that as well. You have to come 2 more days in the week if you wish. That's up to you. I'll give you another half minute. Put down the sequences that you would like to. Is it radial? Is it inwards? Is it linear? How do you want these shapes to come together? Then we'll add the last 5 minutes to the story. And the rest is his story. I'm very proud of these titles, by the way. Just saying. I have spoken my truth. If you do not listen to this book on Audible, you are at loss. Not me. You are at loss. This is one of the best books you could ever listen to, not to create a company, but to sell anything. In life, every day you're selling. You're selling ideas, you're selling advice. This is the best book you can read for that, honestly. And it's on Audible as well, or audiobook, so you can listen to it. You'll finish it within 3 weeks if you listen to 10 minutes a day. The whole idea is plain and simple. This is the last 3 minutes. Stay focused, stay with me. Chop, chop, stay with me, because we're ending now. When you speak to someone, lay out the problem, the solution, and the result. The problem. We have amazing heritage at York. We don't know how to look at it from which angle and the right angle. We don't know what to do. The solution. My project does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The result. You will experience York in its fullest, best angle, and you will see history in a way you have not seen before. Clear and simple. This is with any product, even in advertisements. Hard stains don't come out of your white t-shirts that easily. We have a product that's based on 20 years of chemical engineering. The result, clear new white t-shirts every wash, no matter what the stain. Problem, solution, result. I gave you a taster. You can go then study this book. However, every problem, there's an external, internal, and philosophical problem. Example, quick example. External, we want to experience York. You cannot experience York easily anymore. There's no guide, there's no map, there's no AR, VR glasses. To explore it, that we're not able to explore it when I visit. What's the internal problem? I want to be a person who is in touch with culture. I want to understand the history of place. I don't want to walk around thinking that history started with my birth. Things happened and I want to learn from those things. This is an internal strife. Philosophical, understanding places and time and things and people should not be that difficult. I don't understand in the 21st century with all of the tech we have, why is it so difficult to understand a topic? If I'm even there on site with my 2 feet and I paid money to be here, why can't I understand it? This is a philosophical problem. You need to touch on all three. And I end with this. Any story in the world, any story, any movie, has these components. They call them the magic 7. There is a character, and you're not the character. The person using the building is the character. there is a problem, there's the guide, or the guru, or the sensei, which is your kind self. You're the one who's going to make the world a better place. Okay? You gave them a plan, and you have to call them to action. You can't just give them the plan. You have to explain to them what they're supposed to do. And when they follow that, it leads to success. And you have to make clear to them what that success is. Because if they know what the success is, it's not enough. There has to be an element of fear. And any advertisement in the world, when they remove all fear from their advertisement, nobody buys the product. You have to show a bit of fear, but too much fear, people will turn on you. They won't listen to your message. That's why phone makers, they show you the phone when it's falling on the floor in slow motion, and it's saved. Because they use ceramic second generation shield this year on the 2019 phone. But you saw it falling. They had to instill the fear in you. You have to show them the fear. If you don't use this building, if you don't follow this product, if you don't use this experience, you won't experience York in its fullest. You won't be able to understand the Manhattan skyline. You won't be able to see the history of the Navy in the UK if you don't experience this little thing. Oh, and what if I do? Then you'll understand a lot of more things than you ever thought you would. Simple example, and we leave. Star Wars. You have a character, Luke Skywalker. Who's seen Star Wars? Thank God. Well, the next generation, they won't see Star Wars. It will be a bit extinct by then. Luke Skywalker. What's the problem? The evil empire wants to kill him. Why? Because they know he's one of the last Jedi's with Jedi blood in him. Okay. Who's the guide? Yoda, Obi-Wan. You can choose who you want to be. It's fine. No one will judge you. Gives him the plan. Trust the Force. Calls them to action. Fight. When and where and how. Don't kill, but fight. Give them clear instructions. Results in the Death Star is destroyed. What if the Death Star is not destroyed? The rebellion dies. And Vader takes over everything. Very clear. If you follow any story you like, Harry Potter, whatever, Shakespeare, it's the same line. So my question is, and this is now for you, you can just if you put in story brand 2.0 on your phones, you'll find this diagram. Write down the story you want to create. Because from that diagram, which is not a sketch, it will help you translate what you're supposed to do in your design. So now, write your story. End of story. Thank you very much. So please, back to your stations and start pushing. Points, planes, shapes, heart.
As we are all gathered